We are going to start recording so soon.
Clap.
Yes.
So terrible. It registered. I don't know if it registered on there. I guess video gives it to you.
There we go. Oh boy. The sync is going to be like hello.
Hello.
Classic. Now, before we get going, we've got to be careful with tapping the table because of the table stands.
I think it's going to be fun.
Let's see.
Oh, new clap?
It looks like
3, 2, 1. Perfect.
Hello. Welcome to This Podcast Is Not For You. My name is Wes.
I'm Peyton.
That's Peyton. And that's
I'm being
Jake.
real today.
My name is Jake.
That's Jake.
And the pause is going to be edited out of the audio. But the video, we're going to people like, why does he always do that? But then the audio people will be like, do what? And then the video people will be like, you don't see him like wait 20 seconds to say his name every time?
And then the
audio people will be
the
like,
divide
what?
between audio and video people will just grow.
Mm-hmm.
They'll never be friends.
Until there's a war.
Yep.
We'll have merch specific.
Right.
I'm team audio.
Right.
I'm team video. So,
Video people will
Because the video
only
doesn't have any audio.
because video people will only be able to operate during the day.
of course.
And audio people will definitely be able to hear you coming.
Now that's interesting. What if someone in one timeline
Oh,
was
boy.
a video person,
Right.
and then in another one, could they possibly be an audio person?
It's entirely theoretically possible.
I was gonna say I just thought of that off the cuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then the people that smell podcasts will come in and they will just destroy everybody
then
with stink
Captain
bombs.
America comes in, and he's like, "I can save you all," and I'm like, "What?
What does he have to do with
Yes,
podcasts?
Exactly. I don't have anything else. Just trying to segue.
Well, welcome to the podcast. This will now be our fourth or fifth, whichever one this airs. I don't know which order yet. Video podcast.
New clap.
So, if you haven't yet, if you're listening to this, go to our YouTube. It's This Podcast Is Not For You.
And
you know what to do.
smash that
Yeah,
like button.
exactly.
Ring that bell. Obliterate the subscribe notification button.
Yep, that's exact. He took the words right out of my mouth. But seriously, go to our YouTube and check it out, or just keep listening. Like Peyton said, if you're team audio, you never have to look.
Team
at the video.
audio.
Peyton's team audio.
But you'll
forever.
never know that we did this. Video people rule. It'll be cut out of the audio.
Also, if you're watching, we've got these nice new mugs that Jake crafted for us.
We'll just leave it at that.
They're very nice, high quality. Let us know if you want to buy them.
DM us.
Custom.
Today, we are talking about multiverses and how they suck. If you don't know what a multiverse is, we'll get into it. But they're becoming really big right now, I would say.
Yeah.
Some quick examples, really prominent examples, are Into the Spider-Verse was a multiverse movie of all these different Spider-Men coming into the same world.
Spider-Man.
And woman and pig.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't forget that.
True.
And then Rick and Morty is an animated show, and it's kind of parodying the idea of multiverses. It plays it off as a joke in kind of a nihilistic way, but it still applies. And now the Marvel Cinematic Universe is now a multiverse. There are now multiple universes happening at the same time within Marvel because of the show Loki. And that's probably going to be what we talk about the most today, if I had to guess. But comics in general, it's not like the cinematic universe
Get
of
loose,
Marvel
dude.
Yeah.
made up the idea of a multiverse. It comes
Absolutely not.
comes from the comics.
Yeah.
Because it was an easy way for comics to wipe the slate clean of all of the things that have happened and just start new. How do we feel about this concept in terms of story. We're going to talk about other examples that might be better and of higher quality. But how do we feel about multiverse? Is this a good direction for storytelling? Is it even clever? Or is it lame? Anybody?
I don't like them. At least in their current not form, but like their current presentation, delivery.
Especially the Marvel stuff, or are you thinking of just in general?
Well, there's a sci-fi book that I was reading, and it was Recursion, I believe, by Blake Crouch. And it sort of... Actually, no, Recursion is his second novel. I read his 2 published novels in reverse order. Just because the new one came out, I read the new one. Then I read Dark Matter. And, it gets into multiverses. Mm-hmm. And when I got into that section of the book, I'm like, so nothing
matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even that, it was, I didn't like it, and I immediately was like, oh boy. Which, to your, outline, it could be because I'm burnout. It's possible. The first couple times I would have been like, whoa! But, it's like, oh, okay, so let's say, I don't want to spoil it, but let's say that this character's dog died or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'll just go and get another dog. Like
from another universe.
Yeah, perfect. Same dog.
Right.
Great. It's just like...
Would John Wick do that? No.
In the John Wick multiverse?
In enough movies... That wouldn't be the craziest thing
That's
that I've
true.
ever seen, so who knows?
Well, and to your point,
exactly.
like there's a prime example of what you're talking about in Rick and Morty. Spoiler alert for a season 1 episode of Rick and Morty. Rick ruins their universe with this love potion that he makes for Morty. Turns everybody into these like worm monster things and ruins their world. So he finds another universe where he fixed it. He fixed that love potion problem, and then Rick and Morty died, like right after that. He's like, there's an infinite number of universes, so there is a universe where we fixed it, then we came home and we died. So we're just going to slip into this universe where these 2 died, and now this is the universe that we live in. So some of the characters that you're seeing in Rick and Morty now weren't the same versions of that character from the first episode, which... In a show like Rick and Morty that's animated, and you don't expect an animated show to go in a direction like that, I think it would work, but the same consequences apply. Because at a certain point, you're like, I don't know which character I've been following this whole time.
Yeah.
Is this a different version of the same character? So why do I care about this version?
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, so I'd say that's why I'm burnt out, at least, would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
I would say first and foremost,
all candy.
All 3 of us are wearing glasses today, which is pretty cool. And
if you're watching, you know that.
You would already have known that.
If you're a visual person.
Now, what I'm going to do right now is switch with Wes.
Oh boy.
For this
is not going to go well.
Yeah. But the good thing is, I'm an audio guy, so I don't have to see. Wow, they're so thin. Okay, so. One of the basic building blocks of good storytelling is having consequences for any character's actions.
Yeah.
And not that it's an impossibility with the multiverse where anytime there's more than one universe. Do you want to define multiverse before we start talking about that?
Sure. I need my glasses back.
No, you don't.
A multiverse is a theoretical... This is the actual definition.
No, keep those.
The multiverse is a theoretical reality that includes a possibly infinite number of parallel universes. That's the Merriam-Webster definition of multiverse.
Okay. You not necessarily lose them automatically. I think you can keep consequences and tell a multiverse story, but it is infinitely more work to do that, to close those loops that get opened when you open that door. That's the big building block that you have to take away if on most multiverse stories. And any human being, whether they want to admit it or not, the story will mean more to you if there are consequences.
Right.
Think of your favorite moments in movies or books or whatever, short stories or, whatever content that you intake. Most of the time it is, there's consequences to, it's the climax of a story, or it's the, the moment when someone's at their lowest point, or the, or the highest point at in a falling action, or whatever it be, whatever it may be. The consequences of those actions, like if you set up the first half of a story, those things no longer, you feel like you wasted your time sometimes, and I think that's the big trap that they've set and also are walking into.
I think if you're following the same character as they travel into this world of multiple universes, and they're dealing with the consequences of all of these universes colliding in some way, that can be the consequence. And if you're trying to tell a story about the idea of multiple universes, that's how you have to do it, is you're following this one character or the same characters into that kind of web of craziness.
Yep.
If you're jumping between all of these characters and now this character is gone, but there's another version of them, or they just go, oh, I can go get this other version of
this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got an example that popped into mind. Obviously, we're going to talk about Marvel, but in Endgame, Avengers Endgame, spoiler, I don't care. Gamora had been killed by Thanos, right? And it sets off Peter Quill, makes him heartbroken, all of this stuff. At the end of Endgame, there's another version of Gamora who's just alive now, even though it's a different version, but and that was because of time travel, but it still gets into that.
I was going to say, where do we draw the distinction between, and they're obviously intertwined a lot, time travel and a multiverse. So you could have a time travel story that all takes place inside the same universe, theoretically.
Right. But the second you start getting into characters interacting with themselves, it creates the multiple timelines and all this stuff, which, given our example, is alluded to in Endgame when they're talking about, like, when you start picking stones out from him, then the time is going to splinter and all that stuff. But I think the second you start getting into characters running into each other, then you're getting into parallel timelines, which is essentially a parallel universe. Because in your timeline, that stuff didn't happen. So it's weird.
And at a certain point with this stuff, it gets so complicated that it loses any humanity to it anyway.
Sure.
And any meaning for somebody. Like,
which is why you
at
gotta
a certain point, it's just
hone in on the rules of what the story you're telling is.
It's just stimuli at a certain point, and it's like, it's just visuals.
Right.
Like new characters on the screen. It's like, it doesn't really mean anything because of how big that concept is. I think that's the other big pitfall that they run into a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And the other thing, too, to mention is, like, this is a concept that's really only done in a certain style of story, in a certain genre of story. It's mostly just science fiction. There's been some other stuff that deal with this idea, which we'll get into in some of our examples.
Well, I think it immediately, if this is a part of a story, I think it
immediately
almost
becomes science
categorizes.
fiction.
Yeah, it almost categorizes itself as science fiction.
That's fair. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I was
to
just
that?
like if Airbud died, they found another Airbud from a different multiverse. That, boom, science fiction immediately.
Sure.
Even though it was a children's movie until that point,
Right.
Oh yeah, crazy science fiction film, Airbud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So let's go through.
They don't play basketball in that universe, though.
No.
He
He's
plays
terrible.
hockey in
That's
that
the
one.
one where he played soccer. Okay.
So let's go through some examples of shows and movies that have dealt with this idea of multiple universes. Already mentioned Rick and Morty.
Artie. Yep.
Artie? Is that what you said?
Already mentioned it.
Sorry. The Man in the High Castle. Does anyone know what The Man in the High Castle is?
I do. Why don't you explain it
It's
for?
a Philip K. Dick novel originally.
Very emphasized.
Yeah.
Philip K. Dick.
Gosh, video people are gonna be like, "What?" Audio people are gonna be like, "That sounded normal."
I'm getting sweaty.
He notably wrote the original story that was Blade Runner. He's a very influential science fiction author. But
I just bought that book. We haven't read it yet, though.
Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Say it one more time.
Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Perfect.
It's one of my
By
favorite.
who?
It's one of my favorite science fiction
Who's it by?
titles. Philip K. Dick.
Nice. Soft.
Even nice.
Very soft.
But The Man in the High Castle is about an alternate reality where the Axis powers won World War II and invaded the United States. The show, I watched the first season, and then it started looking like it was going to go that direction of, and there's also a reality where the Allies won the war. And within the show, the characters start finding that out. And at that point in the show, I was kind of like, that's less interesting to me than
If it were
people dealing
trying
with,
to be history.
yes, people dealing with the consequences of the Axis winning World War II.
Right.
Now it's like, how do we get to the right reality where they did like, okay, that's less interesting.
Yeah.
This,
Sci-fi
so
at that
was
point.
that?
Yeah.
Do you know? Was that in a different season? Was that like season 2 or 3?
I think so. Well, I know in the first season, the main character started finding these films that were being distributed by the Man in the High Castle. And I think in the book, it's like pamphlets or books or something.
So it's part of the story that there's multiple universes. I just wonder if it was like a
don't-
studio thing, is what I'm wondering. If it was
It's
put-
definitely more
pressured.
prominent in the show than it was in the book. I don't know how much the book even dealt with that. I don't think it dealt with it very much. But the show, there's like film reels of our reality that Hitler, who is still alive in this story, is trying to suppress and get rid of.
Gotcha.
So yeah, the idea of our reality existing within that one made me go, okay, then why do I care about this? If this is a fake reality
Yeah.
or something, then who cares? Stranger Things is borderline. They talk about there being another dimension, the upside down, which you can get into the theoretical science of like, is a dimension a part of the same reality or is it a separate reality?
To my knowledge, we haven't seen multiples of the same characters, though.
That's true. I don't think that's been a thing in Stranger
Give it
Things.
time.
Fringe was a show for a
It's
long
an
time.
X-Files spinoff.
Not spinoff. Kind of a knockoff, though.
Here, let me
Knockoffs
try,
are
Let me
worst.
try again just for the audio.
Sure.
That's an X-Files knockoff.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
After a couple
I
of
almost,
he came
I
back
almost
to it.
forgot again. I was like, spinoff?
But Fringe was a show that
Knock off.
the main plot was about.
The video
These
editor is
two
going to put
universes.
knock off right here.
and then
I'm
it in the middle. Knock it off.
Definitely going to do that.
And then he's going to like put a picture of every one of these examples like right up here or something, just so you guys.
He's just gonna hit.
Look at all of
He's
it.
just gonna hit enter and upload it,
Look
guys.
at all of it that's happening around you right now.
My hair's like purple right now.
Look, there's a little like animated character running across the desk. Oh, look at him go!
Wow, you guys can see this?
Wow. Oh, Peyton killed him.
Got him.
Yeah.
I might actually do that one because that sounds fun now.
Oh God.
Dark.
Just drill it into the ground. Why don't you?
Dark is a show. It's a German show. I liked it quite a bit. It kind of started out as time travel.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Spoilers alert! Spoilers alerted. Spoiler alert!
It's like-
for the end of. Okay, spoiler alert for everything we're going to be talking about because I don't want to say it after everything.
Spoiler alert.
Spoilers alert is the multiple for spoiler alerts. Just so it's like
Spoilers
courts.
alert.
It's like courts martial.
But Dark started out as time travel, and then you find out near the end of the series that a character ended up creating a world that he split reality into something that it shouldn't be by trying to create time travel. And that a bunch of characters exist that shouldn't exist. So
I think
it's in there, but
it doesn't quite, I don't think, go to the line of...
There's consequences for everything happening in the show.
I guess technically there is more than one universe.
Yes, there is.
And me and Zach are going through this right now still, actually.
Spoilers
Tell
alert.
Zach to not
Spoilers
listen to
alert.
this episode then.
Oh, yeah, you did just give something away, didn't
I
you?
did.
I think this is a really well-made version of a multiverse.
I
though.
would agree.
It is complicated.
It
but
feels
is,
more time travel-y, especially early on.
But it feels like, you know, it feels like things still mean something.
It's thoughtful and it takes it seriously.
It's thoughtful. It's German.
It's very German.
So
very dour. There's an episode of Community that deals with this where it's a pretty famous episode of the show where they flip a
Switch.
dice, right? It's like
they flip a dice.
they,
Yep.
they roll
It's
a dice.
either going to
like,
go top or bottom.
It's a six-sided die, right?
Yes.
And Abed says, you're creating another reality where all of us each go, to get the pizza. And it shows each of those realities. And
Isn't that where he walks in and the room's on fire?
mhm, the darkest timeline.
Oh. That was a great gif.
It is.
To one of the greatest gifts.
Gifts. Life.
But that timeline, quote unquote, in Community came into play in a subsequent season.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it was the season where Dan Harmon was not running the show, and it wasn't done very well.
Looking
but
so
it is.
suspiciously.
I'm very suspicious. But it was a part of the show. Star Trek did it a bunch, and then movies. Donnie Darko, which it's been a very long time since I've seen Donnie Darko, but I know that deals with it. Into the Spider-Verse, like we mentioned earlier. The Cloverfield Paradox, which I have not seen. Have you seen it?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
And it deals with different universes?
That is a theory.
Okay.
Yeah,
That,
it's
you
not
know,
super.
That's how everything Cloverfield
It's not
is.
super
like,
clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Peyton mentioned this when we were discussing this, the Twilight Zone, which I didn't even think of being multiple realities or anything like that. But in the intro, he famously talks about it being like a different world.
Well, I think the reason I mentioned the Twilight Zone is I think this was kind of the first, really popular show that did this kind of thing.
Where it was anthology almost. It was different stuff every episode.
Yeah, it influenced so many shows and stories after it. I just think it has to be mentioned at least.
Sure.
And
There's
it
definitely
has
the DNA of like a multi-universe science fiction thing in it.
and just the nature of short stories, because that's basically what they are. I mean, it's similar to Star Trek in the sense of, it's the same people in Star Trek doing these things, but they're doing, Twilight Zone episodes, essentially.
Sure.
They're doing
Yeah.
like 30-minute short stories.
Mhm.
And that's what Twilight Zone is. And, Black Mirror and anybody
Sure.
following the American Horror Story, like things.
Which I didn't even look to see if Black Mirror had done something like different universes or not.
It's
but
possible.
They haven't.
They have not. Was Bandersnatch like that, or that was not?
It was just a choose your own adventure.
Okay, so it didn't deal with the idea of like the different options being
No.
part of the story.
No.
Okay,
No. In each one, it was as if that's all you had
All
ever
you did.
done.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I see that as kind of the
Godfather!
the
Godfather!
do you want me to say it? I think you're doing great.
you did great.
It's the
Godfather!
of that kind of storytelling.
Sure. Now we kind of touched on this. Some of these shows we like. Like I would say, I like Dark, Community. I really like a lot. I do enjoy Rick and Morty. Into the Spider-Verse I thought was pretty good. But
I thought the first season of Stranger Things is pretty much perfect.
Twilight Zone is a classic. Yeah, like I think you can tell a story with multiple universes and do it well. The thing that I think we have problems with is what we're going to get into now. Marvel has now created a multiverse within their cinematic universe because of the show Loki.
You're
again,
a resident Loki expert.
I guess so, yes. I did watch it. I'm not a Marvel fan, but I'm fascinated by what Marvel does as a company. It's interesting.
You're not a Marvel fan, but you would call yourself a fanatic.
Yes. But no, I just find Marvel to be interesting because they're so massive in the film industry and they're having so much impact on film as a whole in terms of the kind of movies that get greenlit, the kind of stories that are getting told, and then the trends that they follow.
Go ahead and just take a break.
Because this is... So, interestingly, Loki was... The showrunner was a writer on Rick and Morty. He started out as like a writer's assistant or like an intern or something and became a writer, and now he show ran Loki, and he's writing Multiverse of Madness or something.
Just the name Loki makes me laugh. I don't know why. Keep going.
Okay. But he's writing the Doctor Strange movie that deals with the multiverse, and it very much seems like Marvel had the idea, oh, we want to do a multiverse thing. We want to get into that. What has multiverses?
Yeah.
Rick and Morty. Let's get a writer from Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Which there's worse writers you can probably pluck out of the industry.
Yeah.
But something about it seems really cynical to me from Marvel. It's like this big, massive entity doing this little like thing that's been largely in niche science fiction that like nerds are all into, which I guess there's a crossover with comics, but I don't know, something about a big company like Marvel or Disney getting into something like that seems really like cash grabby, and then like we were talking about, avoiding consequences for the characters seems like probably the biggest reason.
Yeah.
And so they can just pull people out of movie history and put them in their movie.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, this character's back.
Yeah.
Which is so hot right now.
So the Marvel universe wasn't a multiverse until what point?
Well, that's the problem, Pate, is you don't understand. It's been a multiverse this whole time.
Right, but
I know that's what's terrible about it. Exactly.
No, it actually hasn't. So within the show, there was one timeline going on.
Yeah.
It was one universe because this character had destroyed all of these other universes essentially and was regularly stopping them from being created.
And this goes for all of the movies, like the individual movies.
Yes.
The you name it.
Yes, all of that was the sacred timeline, quote unquote.
Okay.
And at the
all
end,
the Captain Americas, all the...
And all of that still happened.
Okay.
It's not like that stuff didn't happen.
Okay.
At the
so
end,
that's called the cinematic universe.
Yes.
And then the other thing is... Go ahead.
So
I'm just trying to keep it straight.
At the end of Loki, the character that had been keeping all of the other alternate realities gone, like he was essentially destroying them to keep one fluid timeline, he gets killed, and reality just like branches into a billion possibilities, and the multiverse is created. And at the end of the show, Loki is put into an he's thrown back into this place that he's been before, and he's running to find a character that has been in the show, Owen Wilson's character. He runs up to him, and Owen Wilson's character doesn't recognize him, and you realize he's in an alternate universe now. And that is the start of this sprawling now infinite possibilities of like that's leads to the show What If.
Well, see, my thing is them doing that in Endgame, going to a different reality, says that they've always been there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
so that's what I'm saying.
That's the argument is like, is that
matters.
time travel?
Exactly.
They're just going into a different part of the same timeline.
Well, no, they go through the thing Tony Stark makes in like 5 minutes. He's like, oh no,
The
2
spaghetti,
seconds later. Absolutely.
the pasta noodle loop thing.
So
when Thanos
exactly, this is
So,
why it's ridiculous.
when Thanos does the finger snap, is that happening to all the realities?
I mean, from what I can tell from Loki, which is the thing that described all of this,
Right.
up until that point, it really was only one reality, including the time travel of the Avengers. They mention it in the first episode of Loki.
So Loki
It's
dies.
like that was supposed to happen. The
So
Avengers
does-
time traveling was supposed to happen on this one timeline.
Okay.
And then Loki wasn't supposed to take the box.
Does that happen
in-
after Thanos?
What?
Loki thing. The Loki dying. Does Loki die before Thanos snaps his fingers?
Yes.
Okay.
So that Loki is dead.
Okay.
The Loki in the show,
So at the point of Endgame, all the realities are unspooled, theoretically.
no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can do anything because nothing has to be planned anymore.
True.
You can just say, well, no, that was supposed to happen. And when they actually went into a different dimension, it was still part of this same timeline. After, it's just like, it's ridiculous. This is exactly why. It's like, we don't even know.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
tried to research for this episode. It's like, well, no, actually, they did go into a different timeline, but technically Loki, which was made 3 years after, said that it was supposed to happen, so it's the same universe, but it's a different timeline in that universe. And so it's really, but you got to follow me, it's really cool because Marvel was, it's just like, no. They're just like...
It's really cool because Spider-Man had a different suit.
Yeah.
Did you see the pig Spider-Man? But I don't know. This is...
Well,
that's what I'm
you're saying.
trying to say.
You can do whatever, and that's why they're doing this, is so they have an excuse to do whatever.
Yeah.
So the rumors of the next Spider-Man movie is that Tobey Maguire is going to be back as Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield is going to be back as Spider-Man. Those are rumored. Alfred Molina is definitely coming back as Doc
Spider-Woman.
Ock,
Oh.
as Spider-Woman. No,
I thought he was signed on for Spider-Woman.
Yeah. Yes, he's the live-action Spider-Woman.
Okay. Thank God.
Jamie Foxx, I think, is coming back as Electro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Electro.
They already brought back J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. So who knows what's going on?
Martin Sheen? Martin Sheen and the guy from Spider-Man 1. Can we get...
They're
I
bringing-
want to see...
They're bringing Martin Sheen from The West Wing into...
I'm saying it right now. I will never watch another Marvel piece of content if they somehow bring back Uncle Ben.
No, that's what I'm saying. I would absolutely watch a multiverse with all the Uncle Bens, dude.
Where they didn't die?
a
Just
line.
all of
So
them.
there's no Spider-Man?
It's just about Uncle Ben.
It's a normal show.
Right.
It's the most normal
Every-
tapioca
Just about
show.
like a
It's
70-year-old
about
man.
every Uncle Ben and Mary
Aunt
Jane
May. Ew.
and Aunt May getting together and just...
But you forgot that Aunt May is hot now.
I did forget
It's
that.
Uncle Ben from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies and Marissa Tomei,
Who's that?
the new Aunt May from
Oh.
the Marvel ones.
The 14-year-old
Or Sally
Aunt May
Field.
or whatever.
Or Sally Field. Sally Field's a little bit more age appropriate for
That's true, yeah.
the first Uncle Ben.
Oh, you weren't joking. There's a young Aunt May now?
Yeah, her
Yes.
and Tony or whatever.
Oh.
Right? Date?
No. No.
I thought
He flirts with her.
I thought...
Is she like in her 30s?
It's Marissa Tomei.
I don't know who that is.
She's probably like 45.
She's the new Aunt May.
45.
Probably.
Okay.
There's jokes in the movies about how she's hot.
Cool.
It's ridiculous. It's like, how did we get here? You look at the Aunt May and Uncle Ben timeline, if you will.
Sure. In all of the comics, Aunt May is like 78 years old.
Yes.
I mean, it
What
makes
are
more.
we
It
doing?
makes logical sense if Peter Parker is 17 years old that he has an aunt and is like in her like 50s, like
Yeah.
if she's 50.
Yeah.
So, but it's weird, you know, because it's
Sounds good.
she's supposed to be really old.
Anyway.
Anyways, so the show What If is coming out. I know you wanted to talk about it. It's an animated show, and it's literally what the title
Yeah.
proposes.
Yeah.
What if this character was actually Iron Man? What if this?
It's Marvel.
Yeah.
Right.
What if the most notable one is what if whatever
We don't go see it.
Captain America's girlfriend is
Of course. Pepper Potts.
Peggy Carter.
Peggy 18.
Peggy 18. Peggy Carter becomes Captain Britain or something. Like she becomes the super soldier.
That's not real.
And that's what
Captain Britain.
I think so.
Oh my
something,
gosh. That's worse than Captain Marvel calling herself Captain Carol or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I
Who
don't
are
know
you?
if that's
My
what
name is Carol. Okay.
Dude,
That's
I
worse
laughed
than
out
that.
loud in that.
That's worse than that.
I don't know if that's what she's called, but
Captain England's better than Captain Britain.
it
my
might be Captain
gosh,
England.
I
I
ho-
don't know.
I hope
but
it's Captain Britain.
She's got the shield with the Union Jack on it, and she's the super soldier, and Steve Rogers
It's
is
just
just like a
some
skinny kid
guy.
that like helps her and stuff. So that's an example of what they're doing. It's literally whatever they
If.
want to do. Whatever if. There's zombies in one.
Of course.
Like there was a Captain America zombie
How would there not be?
and the Winter
Is there
Soldier's
one where they
fighting him.
do a baking show?
Dude, it's probably on some WandaVision spin-off BS. Oh my gosh.
What if?
But yeah,
just listen.
this is just like you were
Hear me
you were kind of talking about this. It's just like the laziest way to just infinitely generate ideas.
Yeah.
What if? Hear me out. What if the Hulk got into cutlery? Like he's super into, no, I'm not talking like door to door. I'm talking about like real cutlery. How it's made, German-made cutlery.
They would do that. Why not?
It's a full episode. It's
He can't even
45
hold it in
minutes.
his hand.
I was
Like,
hoping you were going to say, what if the Hulk actually got a decent treatment in the MCU? I would love to see that.
Would that be decent
It's
treatment to you?
unbelievable. No, that's why I was like,
Okay.
what if Pate would have said that? Let's split off the episode at this point.
New reality for this episode.
We can make money on it.
Yeah, I just love to go to a reality where I give a crap about any of this. I honestly cannot believe people are still into like the MCU stuff. I really can't. And objectively, like WandaVision, I know people that have watched it, and I can't believe it. And then Loki came out, and I was like, oh, we're creating a series for one of literally the least interesting characters in any of the movies.
People love Loki.
I know.
Apparently.
It was insane. So I can't understand how people are still into it. The thing is, on the other side of it, the 10-year sacred timeline,
Whatever. Up until Endgame.
I didn't love all of it. I liked some of it. Hats off to him.
Yeah.
That was insane that you got that many movies out, that many people cared about
Then
it.
just stop.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And then now it's just like, oh my gosh, it's still happening. It's like,
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
I don't know.
Endgame was titled that for a reason. Like, it was the end of something. And to just keep going after something that huge, it's like, I guess you have to go in the direction of like, hey, let's break reality because in the last big thing that we did, he killed half of all life in the universe.
The thing is,
You
that's
gotta
how
go bigger.
That's how the movie industry specifically has always gone.
True.
Romantic comedies in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, 2000s run into the ground. Every romantic comedy you can think of was made. And then they stopped making money. And they stopped making them. It's like, this will run its course. People will stop. It'll stop making money eventually.
But the thing you were, I don't think it will. The thing that you were saying,
It will. It costs $400 million to make one now.
people go see them.
Now they do. I'm saying in 5 years, I just don't see, it's not going to last.
I would have said that 5 years
Because
ago.
the stakes are too high. It costs too much to make one. The second one bombs like that, they lose $300 million, they're going to lose their stomach for it.
They've had multiple bombs in the MCU and kept going. That's what's crazy. Is like it almost doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
Because if they get the one,
I don't know that
if they
any
get
of them
the
lost
one
money.
that makes $1 billion
In the long run, I don't have any of them lost money in the long run. Been in the negative.
Lost money is probably no, but
Yeah, probably not lost money, but not. But they've had like 4 of them make over $1 billion. And they're only shooting for those. They don't care if the other ones make 10 million even. if they hit the one that makes $1 billion worldwide, they're set. And that's what everybody else is trying to do too. That's what DC started trying to do. They went straight for it. They were like,
Yeah.
we're going to go Justice League, third movie, Justice League, because we're going to try and make $1 billion. And it didn't work, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the thing that's weird about Marvel, and I think you said this when we were discussing this, is like people don't necessarily care about the story. They want to see the characters that they love doing something cool. I can't remember if it was you that said it or you that said it, but
Both of us at the same time.
we
We munched.
said it in unison.
Yes.
But yeah,
What did we much that day? Was that it? We muched something for real.
You
No.
were on the boat,
who cares?
and we both said the same thing.
Anyways, yeah, that's why I don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon. Is because like
The story doesn't matter that much.
yeah,
Yeah.
Marvel fans, like Marvel fanboys, don't care. It's just like, oh, there's multiple universes now. I'm going to go see freaking Tobey Maguire come back. Like,
I would also
I
say a
don't know.
large demographic
I love
is
the Tobey
kids
Maguire
too.
movies.
I mean, I don't think it's all comic book nerds.
what kid is understanding that there's a multiverse?
They don't. I'm just saying
Yeah.
parents think it's safe to just
Yeah.
take their kids to a Marvel movie,
Yeah.
which it is. But it's also
I would
They're-
not have taken my kid to Endgame.
they're also getting absolutely nothing from it, like
Yeah.
in terms of learning a lesson or
Yeah.
anything like that.
I mean,
it's
there's
just again, it's
it's a
watching
he-
your
it's
it's
just a
watching
hero
your favorite
story.
action figure that you have at home do something on a screen.
right.
Yeah. We both
And-
said that at the same time one time.
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Much.
The Endgame did probably the best storytelling that the MCU has done, because there was consequences for characters that have been around for 10 years. There
Yeah.
was actual character moments of like people dealing with, like, Tony Stark sees his dad and like has closure for that relationship.
Yeah.
He sacrifices himself, which is not something Tony Stark would have done 10 years ago, you know? So there's an arc and there's character stuff in there. It's just buried under mountains of like products and senseless CGI action and
Everything could be in the trailer.
yeah,
Every shot in the movie could be in the
Yeah.
trailer.
right. Whereas like there's elements of storytelling in there that are good, like in the Dark Knight trilogy. Like there's good character stuff in there that you could probably draw parallels to in some of the Marvel movies. But like also the Marvel movies are so like rubber stamped, just like the same movie over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think the thing that people miss about, and I think the Dark Knight started all of this.
Oh, sure.
In terms of everyone trying to do it, obviously Spider-Man and some other movies came out before that, but I would say in general the Dark Knight series started this, but the difference was those movies are not about Batman really. It's
Yeah.
more about the dude, and Batman was a side thing in it,
Yeah.
to me anyway.
True. They're really Bruce Wayne movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is why the first Iron Man is so good.
right.
It's about Tony Stark.
right.
It's not
Yeah.
really about Iron Man.
Anyways, that was kind of a tangent for talking about Marvel, but I mean,
There's probably more examples too than what we went through. I mean,
Sure.
there's-
Marvel is just like really prominent because they're such a huge force in the film industry
I don't know what to call it that.
that it's kind of like frustrating to see them do this because it's just like it's tiring.
My thing
that's
is-
the word I would use to describe it, is like, oh my gosh.
I
Like,
don't really have a problem. Like, if people like them, that's cool. I don't really have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is the way that specifically theaters, or the way that non-huge budget movies get to consumers.
Yeah.
Marvel movies are always going to come to our theater.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather watch an independent film
Mm-hmm.
most of the time. But those hardly ever come to our theater.
And now with everything that happened with the pandemic and how it changed streaming, so many things are now going to streaming. Those independent ones, I think, are no longer... Moving forward, I think less and less independent movies are actually going to play in theaters, especially if the Academy decides that you no longer have to run in theaters to be nominated for an Oscar. The second that happens, I think they're all going to streaming. Because I think they'll get a bigger deal from a streaming service, money-wise, than they will from box office.
God, I hope that doesn't happen.
Anyways, that's completely off topic. But, yeah, Multiverses, kind of over it. I don't think it, like you mentioned earlier, doesn't really blow anybody's mind anymore.
Yeah. I think when I run into it now in any type of story, it's disappointing at this point.
It's like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on Multiverses?
I think it's a shortcut, like we've discussed already. I think it's most of the time it's lazy, and I just don't think that stories will mean as much if you're.
Yeah.
I don't think your story is going to mean as much if you decide to make 4 of the same thing in the same story.
Just a can of worms that once it's opened, it's like,
How are you going to put that back?
It's like people don't, and Steph was saying this, your wife was saying this, people don't want to have closure on anything.
Yeah.
They don't want anything to ever end.
Yeah,
And
that's a good point
I
to
think
talk
that's where a
about.
lot of that comes from in terms of writing. It's like, as an author or whatever they're doing, as a screenwriter or as a, even a songwriter or whatever, it's like, you don't want to let go of these things that you like. You want to reprise them in some way.
Yeah.
Instead of coming up with something new,
Yeah.
Yep. It's
You
like,
do.
yeah, an open-ended movie ending. It's like, just in case,
Right.
we want to be able to do more.
Yeah.
make
I mean, that's
more
why
money
I always just like despise the after credit sequence. Just, it's so that thing that we're talking about.
Mhm.
Even before it was a multiverse, it just is setting up another
Teasing more.
comeback.
Yeah,
I don't know.
for sure. And I mean, you see that with all the reboots of shows coming back and potentially bringing back all of these characters that have been, like bringing back Tobey Maguire or
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield. It's not wanting to let go of anything. And now Marvel doesn't have to.
Yeah.
They now own X-Men because they bought Fox. They also own Fantastic Four, so they're making a Fantastic Four movie at some point. And there's rumors of Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine. It's just like,
I mean, I would.
why?
You can mark my words. Within 10 years, there will be a Star Wars multiverse of some kind.
There was already talk about Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who did Mandalorian, rebooting the sequel trilogy. There was already a rumor about that. Let's do it.
I'm Jake.
I'm Peyton.
And on that note, I am Wes.
Gosh, that would be insane.
Yeah.
What's great is, like, if we're gonna stick to our guns, like, I didn't even like those movies. So it's like, you would think that I would be like, sick, but that is so stupid.
Say it into the mic, man. Be on record.
He's on video. He doesn't care.
It's
If it's on video,
He probably
That's all
leaned
that
out of the
I mean,
video.
we got it at this point. Everyone, that's so lame.
Yeah, it is. It's just not wanting to let go of things.
we need to stop talking about it.
Now we're just getting depressed. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Hopefully it wasn't a total bummer. We're ending on a very sad note. My name is Wes.
Take in content that's good.
I'm Jake.
I'm Peyton. See you.
See you guys.